Hey, folks, 420. It's the International Cannabis Holiday, and it's around the corner. Our friends at SunsetLakeSabadell.com are celebrating with their biggest sale of the season. Now through April 22nd, when you check out with the code 420, you will save 30% site-wide. That includes gummies, tinctures, coffee, hemp flower, vapes, and more. Even better, when you spend over $150, they throw in a 40-count jar of their limited edition microdose citrus vibe gummies for free. That has a little bit of THC in it. Orders over $250 get an additional free jar of Delta 9 THC gummies. Here's the best part. As part of this 420 sale, Sunset Lake has donated $2,500 to the Last Prisoner Project, a nonprofit organization. It's dedicated to redressing the harms caused by our unjust cannabis laws. Last Prisoner Project provides commissary support for incarcerated folks and helps people get back on their feet once they're released from prison. Sunset Lake has donated tens of thousands of dollars to things like Last Prisoner Project, to Planned Parenthood, to refugee resettlement, to carceral reform, on and on. They're a great company, great products, and I know there's some people, I'm not going to point any fingers, Matt, who celebrate 420 pretty hard, although every day is 420. Matt's got one clock, and it's broken, and it says 420. But check it out. They have great products. They never use pesticides in their growing, and you're buying direct from the farmers. Head on over to SunsetLakeSabadell.com. Use the coupon code 420. That's the numbers 420. To save 30% site-wide. The sale ends April 22nd at midnight Eastern Time. See their site for additional terms and restrictions. And now time for the show.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder, where every day's Casual Friday. That means Monday is Casual Monday. Tuesday, Casual Tuesday. Wednesday, Casual Hump Day. Thursday, Casual Thurs. That's what we call it. And Friday, Casual Shabbat. The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
It is Friday, April 17th, 2026. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA, and from a conference room in Las Vegas, a Las Vegas casino, for the Mass Torts Conference. Also on the program today, Iran declares the Strait of Hormuz open. There's a 10-day ceasefire supposedly to go into effect between Israel and Lebanon. We'll see if Israel can stop bombing. Organizer, former Sanders campaign director, and Aliyah Mieha coasts in New Jersey 11th special election. House votes to protect temporary protected status for Haitian immigrants. Reports that U.S. naval ships are running out of basic supplies for their sailors. Federal judge once again limits Trump's dreams of a beautiful ballroom. UN reports that Israel killed an average of 47 women and girls daily between October 2023 and December 2025. House, in a last-minute punt, extends Section 702 of the FISA law by 10 days. 4 Democrats voting or were prepared to vote in favor of a longer extension, the rest of the Democrats voting against. It was 20 Republicans who revolted. And lastly, the Congressional Progressive Caucus has begun to push for a War Powers Act vote every day in the House going forward. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is
Casual Friday.
I am not casual. This is probably the most dressed up I've ever been on a Friday. Really, frankly, the most dressed up I am on any day of the week.
You are wearing a non-soft collared shirt. With
a suit jacket.
Yeah. You're not doing the Fetterman with the hoodie under the suit jacket and then the tie,
the
just
Fred Flintstone tie
around his neck.
Well, I have shorts on, so if that's
no one wants to think about that.
No, I don't. So, folks, yesterday I had 4 interviews with tort lawyers here, and I had 2 today that were scheduled, and they both canceled. So we'll probably just go through the news. There's a chance we might get one of them. One of the big things I wanted to talk about with an attorney that was here was the big Meta ruling the other day, because the one of the lead attorneys was here, and I just was not able to get a time. But we'll talk about that in the future because it's a fascinating case, and there's going to be more of this. Last time we were out here, we were talking about social media cases and gaming cases. There was a couple of people here who are working on gambling addiction cases that are a function of the, sort of just explosion of gambling and market, what is it? Predictive markets opportunities, which I went to the predictive markets thing here and placed a $25 bet on the Celtics to win the championship. It's
a predictive market. Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not betting, honey. It's predictive markets that I'm spending $1,000 a month on.
Exactly. I mean, I just wanted to get there's a 4-to-1 chance that the Celtics will win the championship. Just FYI. But there is a chance over the course of the next hour or so, I may get a guest may show up. But if not, let's just go through the news because there's a significant amount of it. Donald Trump had this to, what do you call it? To truth.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, truth it out.
And it is the case, according to the Iranians as well, that the Strait of Hormuz is open. Donald Trump says the Strait of Hormuz is completely open and ready for business and full passage, but the naval blockade will remain in full force and effect as it pertains to Iran only until such time as our transaction with Iran is 100%. I don't know what that means. 100% complete. I don't know what the transaction is. Maybe
there's
the $20 billion that they're giving them.
There was an Iranian official that spoke to Reuters and told them that their assets being unfrozen is a part of this agreement, which is what the Republicans said was basically aiding and abetting terrorism materially when that was a part of Obama's deal with the JCPOA.
Traitor.
Which was a successful deal that capped Iran's uranium enrichment at single-digit levels, not the 90% that they would need to make a nuclear weapon. And Trump tore that up to get a worse deal, give Iran more leverage, give them more power in the international market now that they control the strait. And so here we are.
And I would also add, not just all of those things that Trump didn't achieve. Like, everybody's celebrating because we're almost back to where we were a month and a half ago. But of course, there's a jet fuel shortage that is hitting various places, Europe and other places around the world. We're going to probably have some food shocks in the coming year because of the break in supply of fertilizer. We may see inflation in chip manufacturing because of while we try and build back the capacity to create helium. There's a whole host of sort of like downstream ripple effects of this that we are only going to see, and probably there will be very little written or talked about how this was an impact of this war. And of course, we killed thousands of innocent people. And this is all to assume that it ends today or ends in the next week or two. And there's no guarantee on that either. It is still baffling in my mind why Trump did this. I mean, there's some obvious reasons. He's not very bright, and there was clearly, people advocating on this behalf. Certainly, Netanyahu did, and
I think Hegseth too. And you hear it's notorious that he is the kind of guy that can be influenced by the last person that's in the room with him. Specifically, if the last person in the room with him is flattering him. And I think Netanyahu is very strategic in when he approached Trump about this. One, with the midterms approaching, and we saw, even though there's still these horrific, traitorous, fascist enabler Democratic senators, the 7 that voted not to block bombs or bulldozers to Israel, and the 11 that voted not to block 1,000-pound bombs to Israel the other day. Netanyahu still recognizes the sea change in the Democratic Party, that over 70% of Democrats think Israel is committing genocide, for example. So the time was now, getting Trump when he was feeling himself after kidnapping Maduro, saying you can do the exact same thing to Iran, and understanding that Netanyahu felt like he had a 10-month window. So our president being an idiot is a problem.
I do think, you raise a good point in that Netanyahu probably knew on some level this was his last bite at the apple with Trump, or at least that there's a chance of that, because the midterms could be so devastating for the Republicans that if the Democrats take the Senate, it is not hard to imagine that Donald Trump gets impeached by this time next year. And so, or at the very least, a Hegseth or someone like that could get impeached. Articles of impeachment came up for him the other day. But let's see what else we got here.
Yeah, number 3 is really important, but we can go chronologically if we want. Did we finish that first truth? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so this is number 2. Iran has agreed to never close the Strait of Hormuz again. It will no longer be used as a weapon against the world, President Donald J.
Which
Trump.
it wasn't until now.
Yeah, it was not closed until you launched the war, buddy. And now they may be charging tolls. We still don't know the contours of this deal.
And I would say if, say, America and Israel decide to strike Iran again, they will probably close the Strait of Hormuz once again.
Exactly.
Or
Lebanon.
Liars.
But or Lebanon, which is key if we can put up 3, because this is actually kind of unprecedented a little bit from Trump here. You can't listen to what he says, you have to listen to what he does, but this is him scolding Israel in public. The USA will get all nuclear dust created by our great B-2 bombers. No money will exchange hands in any way, shape, or form. This deal is in no way subject to Lebanon either, but the USA will separately work with Lebanon and deal with the Hezbollah, which... Was that a racist way to write it, or did he actually mess up?
I can't tell.
Okay. Situation in an appropriate manner. Israel will not be bombing Lebanon any longer. They are prohibited from doing so by the USA. Enough is enough. Thank you, President Donald J. Trump. And so, okay. We have known that the U.S. can yank on Israel's leash whenever we want to. That was true under Biden. It's true under Trump. it seems like they may actually be doing it right now. If it holds, if Trump has the character or stamina to maintain it, I'm very skeptical of that. But it's just an indication of what is possible.
Character, I mean, the
What does
stamina.
what does he mean by the U.S. will get all nuclear dust created by our? I have no idea what that means.
He's saying they bombed the uranium. I think he's saying the enriched uranium has been bombed, and that's what I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, right. Well, but
As a fellow idiot, that's what I,
you're trying to translate for us.
Yeah.
But what's key here though is like I just want to lay out the timeline of this because it shows how this U.S. blockade of the Strait of Hormuz was just a face-saving stall tactic by the Trump administration because it didn't make any sense. Iran was blocking the strait to cause economic pain to the West. That's what was happening. So then Trump saying we're going to blockade your blockade still enables the objective of the Iranians, which is to make gas prices go up for people in the imperial core to feel some sort of economic pain. So he announces this blockade on the 13th. On the 14th, Rubio, who he trusts clearly more than Hegseth on this, and I'm curious if Hegseth is in the doghouse because of how badly this went. Rubio was tapped with hosting talks between Lebanon, not Hezbollah, the very weak government of Lebanon, and Israel, which is the first time in decades. So the next day, those talks happen after Trump says we're blockading the blockade. It seems like that period of time, now we're on the 17th, in that 4-day period, was Trump trying to get the Israelis to accept a ceasefire in Lebanon. And so he wanted to look tough saying, we're blockading your blockade. But all of those 10-point terms that we laid out, that Iran said, these are our terms, and we're going to negotiate with those terms. The ones that included Lebanon, Trump initially said that's not included. No, but this week was about getting Israel to agree that Lebanon is included. So this is a complete and total victory for Iran. That's it.
I mean, I would imagine that was a big get for Iran to basically get Trump to pull back on Israel, and I mean, of course, it remains to be seen where it goes from here, but just an absolute waste in many respects, and we should also say, like, I think to a certain extent, Trump is I think he's pursuing some type of like madman theory, but the problem is it's unclear, I think, even to him as to like what the agenda is.
But
like
he's an actual madman. Like that's the problem, is he's actually a madman.
I mean, the madman theory is a tactic, and it seems to be also his strategy and his ends. Like, I'm just going to see if I can do this and act this strange and misspell things, and that's basically it. It's just...
It worked the same way. It didn't work any better for Trump than it did for Nixon. He got called on his bluff. He did the civilizational threat, and then he had to create this fake blockade to create a new stage that you could get to, even though it was nonsensical. Basically, it was the insane man theory that like lost his marbles instead of a madman theory, because we actually couldn't just kill 90 million people.
All right, let's take... Oh, I should just read this ad that we have today, and then we can get into what's going on with FISA. Folks, I was a little skeptical way back when about the efficacy of a Nutrafol. It's a supplement. It's not, a manufactured drug. And years ago, we had some in the office because they had wanted to sponsor the show. We had no takers at that time. But at one point, I started to feel like I was starting to thin, and I didn't want to lose my hair. I was shedding a lot. I started to take it, and I've had some great success with it. Nutrafol now offers hair growth supplements tailored to men at every age, however, because the root causes of hair thinning change over time, and your routine should too. So they got Nutrafol for men ages 18 to 49 to help their hair growth and achieve thicker, fuller hair in 3 to 6 months. And what I am now taking is new Nutrafol Men 50 Plus, which is the first and only hair growth product specifically formulated for men like me who are 50 plus. I'm almost like out of that range even. They may have to add well, we don't need to get into that. But Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand. It's trusted by over 1.5 million people. I, in particular, have seen significantly less shedding with my own sort of like, low rent shedding test, which is when I get out of the shower, I'm not obsessive about it, but I check and see when I dry my hair, how much is in the towel. And it's virtually nil. Not totally nil, but virtually nil these days. And my hair is feels good, and it feels like it's coming in more on this side. I don't know why I have a problem on that side, but you can feel great also about what you're putting into your body, since Nutrafol hair growth supplements are backed by peer-reviewed studies, NSF content certified, which is the gold standard in third-party certification for supplements. Adding Nutrafol to your daily routine is easy. Order online, no prescription needed, with automated deliveries and free shipping to keep you on track. Plus, with a Nutrafol subscription, you can save up to 20% and get added perks to support your hair growth journey. Start Nutrafol today. Make the hat optional. Visit Nutrafol.com. Enter the promo code TMR10. It's all one word and 2 numbers, TMR10, no spaces, for $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping. Find out why Nutrafol is the best-selling hair growth supplement brand. Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com. Promo code TMR10. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code TMR10. We will, of course, put the details in the podcast and YouTube description. Let's update on FISA. It doesn't get the same attention it did years ago, when a lot of the issues of surveillance and spying were, I don't know if they were more relevant, but they were definitely more in the news. I think to some extent we have just sort of like accepted that everybody's spying on us. We have no privacy anymore. Yet there are attempts to add more constraints in terms of how Americans fall within the foreign surveillance, the foreign, what's the I stand for?
Intelligence?
Yes, Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act.
Yeah.
And so FISA was set to pass last night. Donald Trump came out for it yesterday. All of the Democrats, except for 4, and I don't know which 4 they are, but I imagine we would recognize them.
I know Gottheimer's one of them. I would imagine Golden, usual suspects.
Yep. We're going to vote for it. However, about 20 Republicans deserted. And here's the interesting thing. It was being reported that the Congressional Black Caucus was going to support this. Gregory Meeks, who is one of the CBC leaders, is about as corporatist and conservative as you could imagine. And he's from Queens. But this is, part of the problem. But there was a lot of reporting by the Lever, the American Prospect, and Job Site, who did great.
We had Daniel Boguslaw on Wednesday to talk about his reporting on the CBC on that, and how Meeks is not the whip, and he doesn't lead the Congressional Black Caucus, but he is the leader of their political action committee. So he is across fundraising for the Congressional Black Caucus. And yeah, Jim Himes, who is really close, he's on, I think, the ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee. He was also pushing for this. And over the objections of a judge that had been reviewing Section 702 and had recommended changes, those were Democrats that were at the very least trying to push it through, even without the recommended changes from this judge. And just to clarify, because yes, it was Golden and Gottheimer, I remembered correctly, but it was also Mary Gluesenkamp Perez, straight off the set of the knockoff 500 Days of Summer movie, and Tom Swazi of New York and Long Island representing there.
We should say, I don't know if this came up in your conversations with Boguslav, but the CBC over the years has taken some really bad positions. Longtime viewers of the show will remember, I don't know, maybe it was 10, 12 years ago, I ended up on a set with, and I didn't know who he was, one of the wealthiest black individuals in the country. And we had an argument about the estate tax. And he was telling me the CBC supports essentially a weaker estate tax. And it turned out because he was one of the wealthiest individuals in the country. And he wanted to be able to pass down generational wealth to his kids.
Oh, no
as
way.
if it was a way for black people to pass down generational wealth. It was, but it was just a specific black family. That he wanted to pass down that generational wealth.
And we can thank Jim Clyburn for this incredibly conservative bent of the Congressional Black Caucus. He's not in leadership anymore, but, he's in his mid-80s and still running for re-election. And, he was quite close with the Biden administration, too, their efforts to kind of put South Carolina at the head of the primary line. The CBC has become immensely, it's a conservative force within the Democratic caucus in the House.
I think, part of the problem, I think, is that because there is not the generational wealth that you see in the black community and the white community for obvious reasons, and there's not as many economic opportunities for black people in this country as there are for white people, for obvious reasons of both historical and, in some respects, continued structural racism. There's more of a struggle, I think, for black candidates to raise money. And so when corporate forces come in, or there's more of an opportunity for them. That's basically what it comes down to. But in the meantime, good work by the Prospect and Drop Site and the Lever, their reporting seems to have shifted the CBC, and it came out saying it had very serious reservations about the legislation that it would allow continued over surveillance in our communities. There was, prior to this, it was expected that there would be a clean reauthorization of FISA, whether it was 18 months or 5 years or something to that effect. And yesterday, because 20 apparently or so Republicans decided they weren't going to go along this without any type of changes, they were only able to extend it by 10 days. So this is going to come back up. And we have some sound on this. Yes? This is Nick Sorter.
Yeah.
This isn't the highest quality of interaction, but it is indicative of what's driving this on some level. Here is Nick Sorter talking to Lauren Boebert and Thomas Massey about why they voted to block a 5-year expansion or extension, really, of FISA. Again, this is the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. And part of the problem historically is that it will scoop up too many American citizens' communications that the FISA Act should not be authorizing.
All right, so you guys have successfully blocked the 5-year extension for FISA tonight. You consider this a win? It's a 30-day, when is it?
2 week.
2 week, okay, even better. All right, and why is it important not to extend FISA? I mean, like, keep in mind, this is what they used to spy on President Trump's campaign. It's a warrantless spying program.
Keep that in mind.
Why do you think that they are continuing to try to force this through?
It's a deep state.
It's a deep state.
It's what it does.
Here's the briefing that we're never going to get, because they try to bring us into all these classified briefings and tell us how dangerous it is to have warrants to spy on American citizens. The briefing that we're never going to get is, hi, our agency has been given too much power by Congress. We need you to take some of it back.
And today I went in the SCIF and saw 2 top secret documents that showed this program is getting worse, not better.
Okay, so how does this, I just want to relate this a little bit to like the average American. How could this affect somebody like, your average Kentuckian, of the place that you represent? How could FISA being passed again for 5 years?
If you get on the government's
shit list,
bad list, naughty list, regardless of who is in the White House, right? They could put your name in this, find things about you, and then go recreate another evidence trail to discover that. Because they're never going to say they used FISA to find the stuff out about it. And then they go, you get a random stop, traffic stop. Oh, it's Burchett.
Burchett.
Yeah, because
The genius coming in.
Worse and worse.
What happened?
They were calling Tim Burchett over.
Brian's favorite.
I mean, he's literally my favorite congressman because he's so stupid.
He's incredibly stupid. But that's the problem that they're alluding to, is that it's mass bulk collection, so that they scoop up people's texts and their emails and all of their information in a mass database. And even if say they're not the subject of the FISA warrant and it's only supposed to be for terrorism overseas, there are very few guardrails, and they still have that bulk of data that at their disposal. And it was we kind of buried the lead about the bogus law American Prospect piece. He was specifically calling out the hypocrisy of the Congressional Black Caucus supporting this when it's been used against Black Lives Matter protesters and demonstrators under the Trump administration the first time.
Yeah, and the way that they're rallying, and frankly, I let 1,000 flowers bloom, as it were, in terms of them rallying. Donald Trump was spied on by the FISA court. It was because his people were talking to foreign people who happened to be under surveillance by a FISA warrant. But if it works for them, great. I just sent you, pop this up on the screen. This is Wyden's statement. Ron Wyden, for at least a couple of decades, has been the go-to guy on this type of topic. There are times where he shows up and he's like, I'm really alarmed. And he has done this a couple of times over the years.
Yes.
And it has been very alarming what he gets alarmed about. But a lot of times he can't speak to it specifically because, of course. But he put this out a couple of days ago. Wyden released the following statement in response to new revelations of major compliance problems with the federal government's use of the surveillance authorized by Section 402 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. A few weeks ago, the FISA court, and this is a court that is set up, it's outside of sort of the typical judicial system that ostensibly is supposed to, issue OKs or warrants. It's a sort of a rubber stamp. So when they come up with compliance issues, problems related to the surveillance law known as Section 702, these compliance problems are directly related to Americans' constitutional rights, said Wyden. He is the longest serving member of the Senate Intelligence Committee, by the way. The compliance problems are bad enough, but incredibly, rather than fix them, the Trump administration is considering appealing the court ruling so they never have to. This is a highly aggressive and unusual move indicative of an administration that would exploit every angle to expand its surveillance at the expense of American rights. We should say Trump came out in favor of an 18-month clean extension. Instead of addressing these problems, opponents of reform are going to try and jam a straight authorization section 702 Congress next week. Again, this was written last week. While the American people are still in the dark, this is unacceptable. And so that's where we are. This has been about as bipartisan as things get on a contentious bill. And it remains to be seen if there's going to be any type of reforms. But I don't, if what we saw from Boebert and Massey are indicative, and these other conservatives, we'll see if they can hold out. I don't think there's anything that's going to sway those 4 Democrats who are doing it, because that's they're basically, that's where they are.
Well, my prediction is that there will be a way to find just enough Democrats to get this over the hump in the House.
You think there are going to be more than the 4?
No, I think that they'll do the math about the Republicans defecting, and it'll be a very close vote, just like it was with the War Powers vote just yesterday. We have a little bit if we don't want just idiot conservatives talking about FISA, there's a little AOC sound that Matt pulled up here if you'd like to play that.
Yeah, let's do that.
FISA has been a constitutional and civil rights crisis since its drafting in the Patriot Act in post 9/11. We have a huge amount of problems with warrantless surveillance, wiretapping against American civilians, and we need to do our job to make sure that they're right.
Well, what about the consequences? I mean, your home city was hit by 9/11,
well,
and they say we need this to fend off.
This was the genesis of all of it, right? Of course, we want to make sure that we're prioritizing national security, but we also have to be a check on the use of that excuse of national security to invade and to violate the civil rights of everyday Americans who have the baked-in constitutional ability to conduct their lives with privacy and dignity.
Thank you.
There you go.
Yep. Meanwhile, there were RFK Jr. hearings on the Hill yesterday. And I got to tell you, it is very weird, because the reason why I come to this conference basically started when I was doing a radio program with Mike Papantonio, who is one of the nation's most prominent trial lawyers. He is the one who really broke DuPont in the C8 case. Levin Papantonio firm was one of the key architects of the tobacco settlement. And I did a radio show that he had been doing since Air America days with Bobby Kennedy. And I did a radio show with Mike Papantonio and RFK Jr. And, it wasn't like the way that we do it, where we're all sitting in the studio and we, it was all remote and it was all audio. And often we wouldn't do segments together, but I did work with the guy. And so that when I'm here, I get RFK Jr. associations. So it's weird to watch how this guy has abandoned everything that he seemed to have stood for a decade or two.
Right.
And this one is really, really
insane.
Really into relief. I mean, here is RFK Jr., who spent at least a decade or two on environmental issues, including like Riverkeeper, and we used to have a lot of talks about mercury in the air. I remember the the Bush administration passing the so-called Clean Air Act or the Clean Skies Act, and it was basically inhibiting states from limiting mercury in their states. So it forced states to expand how much mercury could be put into the air.
And this is because Trump's obsessed with coal, right? And juicing like old fossil fuel companies, because coal emissions create sizable amounts of mercury pollution. And for people that don't know, mercury has enormous impacts on adults. Yes, it can impact your memory. It can impact. You can get tremors. But
Well,
specifically,
RFK is gonna
it's
talk
most
about this.
okay. Oh, okay.
As he trembles.
Specifically, it's about pregnant people and children, their development.
On this mercury rule. This is your administration making this decision. Are you critical of it? Why have you stayed
Oh,
silent?
wait,
on
I'm
this?
sorry. Can we just say what the
here.
decision is before we play it, just really quickly? Because
Trump essentially said the EPA basically said we're going to relax standards and allow for almost like twice the amount of mercury to be put into the atmosphere.
Yep.
And so maybe it's a coal plant, but maybe it's like some type of other chemical processing plant. Whatever it is, have at it, folks. And Josh Harder is a Democrat from California, is asking Kennedy, like, how do you, like, how are you not critical of this?
Yeah, how do you square this?
On this mercury rule. This is your administration making this decision. Are you critical of it? Why have you stayed silent on this?
You should call Lee Zeldin here and ask him about those. That's not in my. I have a $2.3 trillion agency. I've got
Secretary, you had in your testimony, you wrote an entire report.
I was not part of the hearings. I was not part of that decision. I'm not going to comment on it because I don't know anything about it.
It sounds like pretty convenient amnesia to me, because you wrote a report where you talked about the damage of toxic air and water pollution.
Mercury is absolutely, it's the most powerful neurotoxin that we know of in the universe.
So why are you working for an administration that is doubling the amount of mercury pollution in our air and water?
I am running HHS, and I'm ending the chronic disease epidemic.
I think it sounds like
which
an
is
awful
what
lot.
President Trump wants, and I'm not going to comment on that because I don't know anything about it.
Well, I think that's very convenient for you, and it shows a significant degree of cowardice. It's not just mercury. President Trump in July 2025 granted 50 chemical plants.
Why don't you ask me something that I'm in charge of instead of other things?
Are you not in charge of healthcare and human services?
Yeah, HHS.
And you wrote a report about how we want to make sure that our kids.
What you're
drink
asking me
clean
about
water
is
and
not a
have healthy
decision that's being made by my agency. Why don't you ask me about something, and I won't ask you about something that's happening in the United States Senate.
Sir, I'm happy to talk about what's going on in the United States Senate. I'd be happy to talk about the damages that mercury pollution did. I think it's pretty disturbing.
I'm telling you what I know, which is mercury is a toxin. We should be minimizing the exposures to that in the environment. I don't know anything about the particular. Running this agency is a big job, and it's pretty consuming.
Well,
so I don't get into what the other agencies are doing.
I think this sounds like a pretty simple story to me.
Why don't you ask me something that's happening in my agency?
I think if
you ask me about a decision that I've made.
You wrote a report. You wrote a report talking about what we need to do to make our kids healthy.
All right, we don't need to hear this anymore. I mean, here's the bottom line. The guy is the head of Health and Human Services. He has written reports about the dangers of mercury as a neurotoxin. This is a very easy question for him to answer. Is what this policy is doing by doubling the amount of mercury in the air or putting 75% more, or I don't know, 300% more, does that work against everything else that you're trying to do by getting these neurotoxins out of our supposed, they're in our vaccines, they're in our processed food or whatever it is, wherever else you think they are? We have a perfect example of just across the hall from you. They're okaying releasing more of these neurotoxins into the air. And he is such a coward. And honestly, if he had any principles, if he actually cared about these things, he would speak out against it. But he's too cowardly to do so, because he doesn't really, at the end of the day, have any principles about this. If you're worried about mercury and neurotoxins and other chemicals being allowed into the air that we breathe, then you should at the very least have the courage to say, like, I think it's a mistake. That's it.
Yeah.
You don't have to know the inner workings of the other agencies. He's supposedly the expert. Right.
Well, I mean, yes. And also, you could have, the other question could be, Well, what does it say about this administration that you have one agency that is repealing Biden's 2024 rule so that more mercury can be released into the atmosphere, and you are claiming that that is a toxin that's harmful to people? Does that show leadership or show some sort of consistency? Like, where how are you able to function as an administration if you are that diametrically opposed across agencies that impact one another? But yeah, as Matt was saying off camera, spoiled rich boy was getting all upset, like, why don't you ask me about what I do, blah, blah, blah. Because I actually think that he might be in a little bit of trouble. We're seeing now a lot of panic. I'm reminded of that Tim Pool clip we played yesterday where he's really worried about the female vote. Tim's getting so close with like the Republican circles at this point that this is probably what they're hearing via internal polling, because suburban moms are really pissed about this measles thing. And this came out yesterday. It's a little under the radar, this article that I sent in the New York Times. We can just show the headline. Trump to nominate doctor who has publicly supported vaccines as the CDC director. So this CDC director, this woman, Dr. Erica Schwartz, is somebody who it doesn't seem like, I don't know much about her background, but she has degrees, actual degrees in medical engineering, medicine, public health. She served as the deputy surgeon general during Trump's first term, and she's seen as qualified, and she's praised vaccines and is somebody who is not a skeptic in that way. So if they're seeing this as RFK as an issue for them in the midterms, and Trump is trying to nominate somebody who's actually sane to the CDC director position, his ass is hot right there. Not that I want to picture that, and I'm sure it's disgusting in those genes.
Well, the genes get it.
Yeah, just the and the meat only diet. We don't need to go down this road, but yeah, he's panicked is my guess.
I'd just like to play into the record this audio that Andrew Kaczynski found of him probably in Trump's first run, but he published it in 2024. Here's some things RFK had to say about Trump.
You know, one of the things that you write so beautifully, and your stuff is so fun to read, but you write about Trump. Quote, the way that you build a truly vicious nationalist movement is to wed a relatively small core of belligerent idiots to a much larger group of opportunists and spineless fellow travelers whose primary function is to turn a blind eye to things. We may not have that many outright Nazis in America, but we have plenty of cowards and bootlickers, and once those fleshy dominoes start tumbling into the Trump camp, the game is up. When you talk about fleshy dominoes, Chris Christie comes to mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, that's Matt Taibbi as well.
Yeah, it's Matt Taibbi's writing, and how ironic that those two would become some of those fleshy dominoes in some respects that fell. I mean, and I should say this probably from Ring of Fire radio. It is amazing how the level of cowardice, and I do think that they are now in the administration perceiving him as a liability. The Maha movement seems to have turned out to be, just another sort of like branding exercise.
I got a little bit of a soapbox about that. In the Corn Belt, 5% increase relative to everywhere else in youth cancer. I lost an uncle to bladder cancer last year, and I just found out that a cousin of mine from the same area, 6 years younger than me, has bladder cancer.
Oh, jeez.
We know what's causing this sort of stuff. In that part, it's basically pesticides. We know about the cancer clusters in Louisiana and stuff like that. We should be addressing this stuff, and Maha has been nothing but a cloak to obscure these actual crimes by corporations and big agribusiness.
I think if I'm not mistaken, Trump signed an executive order that protected glyphosate, and this is a herbicide that Kennedy, as an attorney, was arguing against, and an advocate arguing
YouTube
against.
RFK glyphosate, and 4,000 videos come up of him. railing against
100%.
it.
100%. And so you really do get a sense of like how authoritarianism, how fascism works in some way. I think Taibbi wrote about it quite eloquently and was rather predictive. It just who knew that he'd be having that conversation with one of those fleshy dominoes. All right, we're going to head to the fun half, folks. It does not look like I'm going to be getting any guests today, but we will take some phone calls and play some sounds in the fun half of the program. Just remember, it's your support that makes this show possible. You can become a member at jointhemajorityreport.com. Jointhemajorityreport.com. Support the show, get the free show free of commercials. I am us on the fun half, and keep this show surviving and thriving. Also, don't forget justcoffee.coop. It's a cooperative in Madison, Wisconsin that sells some of the best coffee anywhere. They take care of their producers, whether they're in Chiapas or in East Africa. They're a co-op, and they have the Majority Report blend. Use the coupon code MAJORITY, get 10% off. Matt, what's happening in the Matt Leckian media universe?
Yeah, so you asked and we delivered. People want to know about what's going on with Zach Polanski over in the Green Party in the UK. So we had Grace Blakely on, one of our favorite commenters, to talk about the rise of the Green Party, the fall of Labor, and how socialists in America should feel about it and how socialists are feeling about it in the UK. Very interesting stuff. Grace is one of the best. So check that out. That's coming up right after the fun half today at 3 o'clock Eastern time.
Just really quickly, I wanted to make a request to the audience, just because if you listened last week to our interview with Dr. Tarek Loubani, you will understand how horrible conditions still are in Gaza. And the organization that he works on behalf of, the GLIA Project, is doing essential work, providing medical care there. It is my birthday tomorrow, so my request is if anybody
Happy birthday.
yeah, for that, so I'm using this as leverage to get the audience to perhaps donate to the GLIA Project if they have just $5, $10 laying around. That's my birthday request. If you don't mind supporting Dr. Loubani and his work in Gaza, that would be great. So it's glia.org, and you can find out more about their work there.
All right, late breaking. We're gonna not go to the fun half quite yet because I do actually we have a guest. Yeah. So give me 1 sec, and let me just switch this to this, and hopefully it works. Oh. All right, if you could just sit in a little bit. Joining me now, Alex Taylor. Alex, you're working, you're an attorney here at the Mass Torts Conference. Yeah. And, sorry, let me do that. Tell us the case you're working on.
So one of the cases we're working on now.
Closer to the mic.
Get a little closer.
Yes, if you could just slide.
Sure.
Yeah.
One of the new cases we're working on is related to this company called Multiplan. And so the basic idea is Multiplan was a company that was created to help insurance companies process payments to doctors and hospitals and other healthcare providers when people would go to get out-of-network treatment. And so they started up, 20 some odd years ago with this idea that they were going to work with all of the big healthcare plans that you've probably heard of, Aetna, United Healthcare, all of these huge conglomerates that represent, thousands and thousands of plans across the country. Well, early on, the idea was we'll process these payments. We'll take a little bit off the top as a service fee, and we will make a nice, comfortable living doing real work to help doctors get paid for people that are being treated out of network. Well, after a few years of doing that, they realized we are not making enough money, and we want to make not a reasonable amount of money, but an exorbitant amount of money. And so they created a plan along with the health insurance providers, because one of the ways they convinced all these people to let them work together was they would have to see the prices that they were charging. And all of the insurance companies were afraid if these other companies see what we're paying the doctors, that they're going to undercut us. They're going to offer to pay these doctors more to switch to our network. And so all of the health insurance companies were afraid of this. So MultiPlan came up with an idea of what if we create a system where we agree across all of the health plans, we're going to pay this rate. And we're not going to tell the doctors what it is. They don't get to see behind the curtain of how this number gets arrived at, because we're going to use this AI algorithm that's going to analyze all this data from various healthcare plans, what doctors in the region charge for particular types of procedures. And so it creates a, kind of a cloudy gray area between the doctors and the insurance companies where they can take money off the top that they're not entitled to.
This is, it seems to me, analogous to the same thing that was happening in real estate with rentals. And I can't remember the name of the company that was doing.
I'm drawing a blank on it too, but maybe RealPage or something like that.
Yes, RealPage, exactly. Yeah. And if there was no technology and people were achieving the same thing, it's called price fixing.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
And but because we have an algorithm that's doing it, because maybe these two, just to use the RealPage example, because I'm more familiar with that, I'm in building in one area of town and somebody else is managing in the building in another area of town. We no longer have to talk to each other.
Right.
We just sort of meet in this, we send our information into an algorithm that then coordinates everything. Right. And that's what's happening there.
They all get to raise their hands and be like, well, it's the algorithm that's doing it. We didn't, create this, unfair system. But really, we believe that once we get into the discovery, there's going to be a lot of evidence they were colluding. Basically the way a cartel works, we all get together and agree we're not going to actually compete with each other, because that would lower the amount of money we can make. We're going to collude. We're going to use MultiPlan as an intermediary so that we can shift the blame. But we believe that it's not just MultiPlan. They are the primary bad actor. They created the algorithm that prevents the doctors from being able to see how they're getting to this, much lower number than what they would otherwise be entitled to recover. But the insurance companies, the Uniteds, the Aetnas, they're just as culpable in this system because they have all agreed not to compete with each other. And they just offload that, much like the real estate companies did. Right. We're just going to offload it onto RealPage and, say, well, we're not agreeing not to compete. We just all happen to outsource this work to the same company that also happens to create a huge windfall profit for us.
So talk to me about the relationship between, obviously, I think this audience knows that right now, over the course of, let's say, the past 3 years, we've gone from perhaps the most aggressive administration regarding antitrust that we've had since, the Bork standard in antitrust. So we're talking, 40 some odd years, to a reversal. At least they've undercut the DOJ and the FTC. The Live Nation deal is a perfect example of that. Right. The DOJ just walked away from that case. Fortunately, state attorney generals stuck in there, and Live Nation was found to be, and Ticketmaster found to be an illegal monopoly. What's the relationship between lawyers like yourself is pursuing civil litigation of antitrust, like that dynamic? Like, what authority is there any difference between? Are you guys just basically functioning as like a series of state attorney generals in this context, or in other administrations, a DOJ.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any difference between the suits you're bringing? Will the findings be the same? Could they find it to be an illegal monopoly and have implications for people even outside of your client base?
It potentially could. So DOJ, excuse me, they're an interested party in the litigation, but ultimately the DOJ's criminal potential prosecution of Multiplan or any of the other companies that are involved in this scheme would be independent of our civil litigation. And so what we are seeking to do here is put the money back in the hands of the doctors and the hospitals that should have been receiving this money to begin with. But what we hope will happen as a result of it is, obviously the goal with criminal prosecutions of these is to get them to stop the conduct. And because obviously here the risk is the costs don't just disappear. They just get moved around and they end up on the healthcare plans and the healthcare administrators, so that, if your local school district has a pension or a union healthcare plan, their costs go up. If your small business is trying to buy a healthcare on the open market, your costs of administration go up because the doctors have to raise their prices to cover the difference between what they should have been getting under a fair system and what they're getting here. And so the hope is that if we can create a big enough financial downside for them from continuing the behavior, because they've tried to rebrand now. They're no longer Multiplan, they're Claritev. They've changed their name, trying to hide from the bad press around Multiplan, but there's no indication yet that they've truly fundamentally changed the behavior. But our hope is that if we can show that not only are they going to have to give back all that money that they took from the doctors, but they're also going to have to pay all of their attorneys to do it and get all of the bad press that comes with that we can give them a financial incentive to actually do things the way they should have done from the beginning and stop this illegal cartel. But we do lack ultimately the same sort of injunctive force that DOJ or state AGs could do, where they could declare it illegal and then create real penalties to the individuals at the company if they continue to engage in the behavior. So I do think we still need DOJ and state AGs to continue to pursue these claims, the criminal prosecutions, because otherwise these companies are just going to move on to the next scheme.
Just the cost of business and we'll go on. Okay.
Exactly.
How much do your findings, I would imagine in, maybe in this context that we're talking about state AGs, because again, the feds at this point seem to have shut down a lot of a lot of the antitrust enforcement. But are there, it's conceivable like a state attorney general could look at this after your case, if it's successful, there's a finding of fact that they're engaging in this type of practice.
Right.
They can use that as a building block.
Absolutely.
For other actions. Is there ever an occasion where a private or a civil litigation about antitrust can actually bring about the same type of remedy that we would see, like, we're going into the remedy phase for Ticketmaster and can something like that ever happen in a civil case, or as opposed to like just sort of recovering damages? Is there other remedies that can go forward, or is that exclusively to the purview of the state or the federal government, because you need to bring criminal charges in that way?
So there can be some help. You can get injunctive relief through these civil cases in some situations, and that is certainly one of the things that we're hoping to pursue here, is to get a injunction to not just pay them back what they stole from them essentially, but also to stop the conduct going forward. And if you can get, I'm sure you're probably familiar with like consent agreements between the federal government and, like local police departments, where it can create an enforcement structure. You do have the ability in certain situations to make that part of the settlement of these cases, is to, build in mechanisms that if they engage in the same behavior, your same clients can go back to the court and say, Your Honor, they're doing the same thing they were doing 5 years ago when we sued them, issue a court order to to tell them to stop, and then violation of that can, potentially result in first civil contempt, and then getting to criminal contempt is a little tough.
Right.
Those mechanisms are a lot harder and raise a lot of kind of sticky jurisdiction questions. So it's not quite the ideal of putting the bad actors in jail, but there are some mechanisms that we have to at least civilly stop them from engaging in the conduct going forward.
Interesting stuff. Where is it at this status, the case?
So the litigation was consolidated in the Northern District of Illinois in front of Judge Kennelly last year in July. And so right now we are, there's a lot of the, very large healthcare providers are already in the case, like Ascension, for example, is one that I'm familiar with locally. They, run a lot of the hospitals in my area. But there's also still plenty of doctors out there, smaller practices that have an opportunity to get involved. We have not yet gotten into the discovery phase, but we have gotten past the motion to dismiss. So the early kind of attempts that they made to shut the case down early on, the judge has already denied those. So we're going to get into discovery, which means we're going to get a see under the hood and, really get into documents, which, we talked earlier about how state AGs might be able to go after them. Well, the documents that we can get in civil discovery are one of the mechanisms that can allow criminal prosecutions to go forward, because the same conduct that we maybe use to show that they were engaged in a RICO violation, well, there's also criminal RICO, not, in addition to civil RICO. And so those same documents can support a criminal case if a state AG were to bring such a case.
Are there ever times where a state AG knows that you're doing a case and says, hey, I'm curious about X, Y, or Z, or they provide any type of here's a series of questions, or there's, I'd like to see these documents. Does that ever happen?
It can, certainly. So, for example, in the opioid litigation, there was a lot of state AG cases going on there. We represented a couple of them where, sometimes it means that you might have 7 days of deposition of one witness, because you have the civil plaintiffs and then you have maybe the state AGs. And so different plaintiff groups or state actors can kind of all have their shot at the witness. And so, oftentimes the state AG, they may appear personally, they may hire another firm to represent them in the litigation, but state AGs can absolutely get involved. We would encourage them to get involved, especially to the extent with state AGs, oftentimes they are running, the state Medicaid plans.
Yeah.
And so to the extent that costs are going up from doctors that are attributable to that, there may be state AG claims for direct losses to the state from the money that they're basically paying to subsidize this illegal, price fixing scheme.
It's good stuff. Alex Taylor, thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks, Sam. Pleasure to be here.
And good luck with the case.
Appreciate it.
All right, folks. Let me see if I can switch this back here to, bear with me. Boom. There we go. Folks, we're going to head to the fun half. We've done all the stuff. I got in my antitrust case, so I'm happy.
Very nice.
Yes. All right, folks. See you in the fun half. 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now. And I don't think it's going to be the same as it looks like in 6 months from now. And I don't know if it's necessarily going to be better 6 months from now than it is 3 months from now. But I think around 18 months out, we're going to look back and go wow. What? What is that going on? It's nuts. Wait a second. Hold on for a second.
The Majority Report.
Emma, welcome to the program.
Hey.
Matt.
What is up, everyone?
Nomi Key.
You did it. Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon.
Bradley, you want to say hello?
Sorry to disappoint everyone. I'm just a random guy.
It's all the boys today.
Fundamentally false.
No, I'm sorry. Women's.
Stop talking for a second and let me finish.
Where is this coming from, dude?
But dude, you want to smoke this 7A?
Yes.
Hi, me? This me?
Yes.
Is this me?
Is it me?
It is you.
Is this me? Hello, is this me?
I think it is you. Who is you? Oh, no sound. Every single freaking day. What's on your mind?
Sports. We can discuss free markets and we can discuss capitalism.
I'm gonna go start watching.
Libertarians.
They're so stupid, though.
Common sense says, of course.
Gobbledygook.
We fucking nailed him.
So what's 79 plus 21?
Challenge met.
I'm positively quivering.
I believe 96, I want to say. 857-210.
35.
501. 1/2. 3/8.
9/11, for instance.
$3,400. $1,900.
5, 4, $3 trillion sold. It's a zero-sum game.
Actually, you're making me think less of it.
But let me say this. Poop.
You can call it satire. Sam goes, it's satire.
On top of it all,
Yeah.
my favorite part about you is just like every day, all day, like
Yeah.
everything you do.
Without a doubt. Hey, buddy, we see you. All right, folks.
It's just the week being weeded out, obviously.
Yeah, sun's out, guns out. I don't know.
But you should know.
People just don't like to entertain ideas anymore.
I have a question. Who cares?
Our chat is enabled, folks.
I love it.
I do love that.
Look, gotta jump. Gotta be quick. I gotta jump.
I'm losing it, bro.
2 o'clock. We're already late, and the guy's being a dick. So screw him. Sent to a gulag?
Outrageous.
Like, what is wrong with you?
Love you, bye.
Love you. Bye-bye.
We are back. Sam is just taking a quick break. He will be back, but in the meantime, I will read some IMs. Snarkanorski, requesting charitable donations in lieu of birthday presents is righteous. Well, I don't expect the audience to give me birthday presents, so it's not as selfless as you might. I'm anticipating some gifts from other people, potentially, but I'm not soliciting the audience for gifts, but yes, if you can support the Glia Project, and even just sharing that interview that we did, showing that the genocide is ongoing.
Because the algorithm's not going to do it.
It's not, and I always, I feel for, like, I understand that those interviews aren't going to do as well, especially given how, frankly, he speaks about what is happening there, but I was listening to Amy Goodman a little bit on Hassan's stream because it was just so thrilling to hear her speak like with candor and extemporaneously in a way that you don't typically hear her on Democracy Now! And I know, Brian, you saw her documentary, and I'm really looking forward to looking.
Yes, it's called Steal This Story.
Steal This Story. But I was just super moved by, how she says, like, the media can play this role of advocating for peace in the world simply by humanizing people that are so frequently dehumanized in the West. And I took that to mean, as she speaks about Iraq and Afghanistan in that conversation, the people impacted by the U.S. war machine. So that's aspirational for me in this role on this show and doing what I can. And of course, she's just like a guiding light for anybody that wants to be a truth teller. And so, yeah, that's what had me thinking about that a little bit. Commie Tommy, Israel is bombing Lebanon again, apparently.
I mean, do you have a source for that? Because Al Jazeera of 9 minutes ago says the ceasefire is still holding. I don't think Israel ever really stopped bombing completely. They reserve the right to, and indeed make sure you know that by sending a bomb or two every couple of half hours. But I don't know if it's enough to say the ceasefire is over.
Yeah, they did continue bombing a half hour after the ceasefire was agreed to, but that is the last that I had seen of it.
Yeah, so I not to be too judgmental, but if you do want to break news like that, just cite a source for us.
Hi, Sam.
Sam's muted. Sam's muted.
Oh,
Brian.
Sam's muted. Hold on one sec. We just muted you while you
My
were
bad.
away.
You're muted.
Sorry about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
It would not be inconsistent with past behavior by the Israelis
No.
to break a ceasefire in that way. But
But with Trump's threats here, it's it would be interesting to see what would happen, obviously, if Trump is demanding they stop and they are not doing so. But Matt just checked Al Jazeera and hadn't seen any such news. So
let's turn to some good news yesterday in your neck of the woods, Emma.
Yeah, well, I mean, sadly, I don't have family there anymore, but I got to go back and visit my hometown. It's really not far. I just don't. What's the point? But whatever. She's from my hometown, Ana Lilia Mejia. It's not a big town, so it's pretty cool to see. Representing NJ11, she ended up running away with the special election, which is held in New Jersey on Thursdays because we talk quite frequently about the corrupt New York City or New York State Democratic Party. New Jersey has its own problems, although the ballot line change has been helpful to kind of insurgent candidates and has less of a the county and state party has less of a grip on which candidates have an advantage. But Ana Lilia Mejia, people will remember in a primary just a few months ago in New Jersey's 11th district, which is kind of a pretty wealthy suburban district outside of New York and North Jersey, ended up eking out a victory over the favorite, Tom Malinowski, who had been in Congress previously, because AIPAC wanted to make an example of Malinowski. Malinowski is very pro-Israel, but he had started to get a little squeamish and said, hey, maybe we should block some bombs to Israel, ha ha ha. AIPAC goes, no, we are going to spend against you. And they ended up kind of splitting the votes in a way that Ana Lilia Mejia's ground game, when she had such a small amount of fundraising, made the difference. And so on election day, she turned out a ton of people. She has previously worked for Bernie Sanders, endorsed by Bernie, AOC, Working Families Party, Elizabeth Warren, and this is the victory in the general in yesterday's special election, explained here on CNN.
Harris won that district, won New Jersey's 11th district. I love the ice cream in that district, I'll tell you. So many great places to go, but bottom line
Wait,
is
hold on.
Kamala
Okay, I'm sorry to be indulgent, but you talk about Worcester a lot, so I get to have, I can guarantee you what Harry's talking about there. He is talking about Holston's, which is an ice cream shop where they filmed the final scene of The Sopranos. When it goes to black, spoiler, we won't say what happens or what's implied that happens, but that is 10 minutes from where I grew up. It is a staple. So I'm pretty sure he's talking about Holston's.
It's funny because Harry Anton seems like a character from Sopranos when they flash back to like Tony's dad.
Exactly.
Yeah, in the prequel.
Also very easy to picture him licking an ice cream cone. I don't know why.
That is a
to
very
go,
odd.
But bottom line is this: Kamala Harris won that district by 9 points. But right now, we see that Mejia is way out ahead. But that is not surprising me because it's part of a larger picture. Look, we are now talking about 7 special elections. And in every single one of them that we've had during the second Trump era, the Democratic candidates for the House have outrun the Kamala Harris baseline. Florida won last year. I remember you and I were together. 23 points, 16 points in Florida, 6. Virginia 11, 17 points. Arizona 7, 17 points. Tennessee 7, 13 points. Georgia 14, 25 points. And while there are still votes to be counted here in New Jersey's 11th district, I will say at this point we're probably looking at an overperformance of at least 10 points when all the votes are said and done. So 7 special elections, and in every single one of them, the Democratic district for the House of Representatives has outperformed Kamala Harris's baseline by at least 10 points.
Well, good news is Kamala Harris is getting the message and is definitely not going to North Carolina and soft launching a campaign or something like that. Oh, wait.
Doing videos under gas stations,
Woo.
prices.
Girl, you embarrass me enough.
The big news is that you have a Bernie style. I mean, she was literally one of the campaign field directors, winning so decisively in this district mean, obviously, it's a D plus district, but to win with this level of decisiveness, I think, sends a message. And
notably, J Street endorsed her. So we're seeing a shift a little bit in J Street too, when they're seeing some of the polling on Israel within the Democratic Party. She is in favor of blocking weapon sales to Israel, and J Street still endorsed her, which that might be the first of its kind in that way, or at the very least, for a new candidate like this, it seems something something to pay attention to here.
Yeah, it's interesting because if J Street is doing this, that means that there are, so-called liberal Zionists who are, allowing J Street or compelling J Street to get more aggressive, at least in the context of Israel's government. And so it's a big deal in that regard, because the further that pushed in that direction the liberal Zionist camp is, then the further those who are anti-Zionist can go in terms of inhibiting Israel's weapons, Israel's apartheid state, et cetera, et cetera. So
they're defensive now, right? Because they have to separate themselves or distance themselves from AIPAC, saying, okay, we're not the same group. That's why they were created. Yeah. But when you have 40 out of 47 Democratic senators saying that we're going to block bulldozers to Israel, you have to now adjust your own political lobbying efforts. I don't trust any liberal Zionist PAC because I think if you're still committed to the ethno-state, you're not necessarily to be trusted at all. But I find it refreshing to see them kind of on their back foot, wanting to maintain Israel's credibility even in the narrowest sense by saying that they can even still get behind candidates that are that critical of Israel. So
right, this is not. I mean, I'm not celebrating it, but it is a data point to give us a sense of where we are, and even frankly, Ezra Klein's whole sort of shift too. That is another data point. Again, I'm not. I've never been a huge fan, but it's a data point to measure where certain forces, where they have moved and where other forces can move in the future.
Ezra, for people that don't know, did a show, I guess, about one democratic state.
No, about the one state reality. I don't know if you got to one democratic state.
Okay. So just acknowledging that's literally just acknowledging that Israel illegally controls the West Bank and East Jerusalem and and Gaza and is an apartheid state, which we've known. It
is a big, I think it's extremely helpful, the framing of it being one state now.
I agree.
Because then all of a sudden it's very difficult for, if you have that understanding that it's one state now, it is very difficult to deny the apartheid, right? You can't hide by saying, well, it's not, it's sort of like 1.3 states or something like that. Because once you recognize there is one state right now, then you have to reckon with the apartheid and that exists.
It's just agonizing to see people come to the conclusions that every piece of reality should have led them to when it would have mattered.
That you could get in the New York books from Tony Judd in 2003.
Yeah, right. Like before Israel killed hundreds of thousands of people and ruined their lives and poisoned them with pollution, and I mean, anyway. But Matt sent this. Sam, do you want to listen to a little bit of her victory speech?
Sure.
Thank you for all who casted your votes for an unbought I jumped into this race, the odds were stacked against us. But we did the impossible and we won. And look, in 10 weeks after that tremendous primary victory, the daughter of a Dominican factory worker and a Colombian seamstress who grew up wondering, what could I possibly be in this world as a working class kid who watched her parents struggle.
At the Montclair Art Museum. That's where I took the bus every day to go to school. That was where we all met up. Whatever. Cool. It's about me. I'm just tickled by it. There's not a lot of progressives that come out of that district too. It's just it's encouraging.
That's an important point.
Yeah.
Is that it turns out that this sort of thing can win in all sorts of places, whether it's New York City or Emma's former hometown, or even where Taylor Ramette won in Texas. It turns out maybe some of the conventional wisdom you see in Forbes magazine might be not right about what wins campaigns.
Let's go to, should we do 12 and 13? Which one, what's the best order for that?
Rogan.
Wait.
I would say you will have more fun with 13.
Oh yeah, I know that. I'm
but I think
curious.
the best order is 12, 13.
Okay. Let's, Joe Rogan is, it's interesting to see a lot of these people reposition when they start to realize it's not helpful to pretend that Donald Trump is anything other than a malignant force in our politics and in our country. But here's Joe Rogan moving on to the next malignant force and singing his praises. Go ahead.
Did you see the CBS interview with J.D. Vance?
Just one clip.
Fucking amazing.
Oh, so I should watch the whole thing?
Oh my God, it's a masterclass. He just
he is
he's
impressive.
so good.
He is really good.
He's so good.
Has he been on your show?
Yes. Yeah, he's great. Thank God for that guy. He's so good at dismantling those dopey people.
Yeah.
And just breaking down, she was like, this is a country built on immigrants. He's like, yes. That doesn't mean that 240 years later we have to have the dumbest immigration policy possible.
Well, so
did you see this?
Immigrants didn't build the country just 240 years ago and stop anyway.
They just did it on that day. I saw some photos online recently of the Chinese workers for the Transcontinental Railroad, I think it was, and stories of how they would get significantly underpaid. They would do far more dangerous work. Far more of them were killed in the making of the railroad.
Yeah. Also, we should say enslaved people as well. I was looking up lynchings that happened in places like Montana and North Dakota because they don't have historically a high black population. There was one in Fairview, Montana, right on the border. And it was because the people that were building all the bridges back then were itinerant labor from the South, black folks, and they would be traveling across the country. So even the places that my white ancestors, take a lot of pride in being from, and homesteading and stuff like that, the bridges and big infrastructure there wasn't built by them.
It's also interesting just the way that he frames this. We had earlier in the week on the program a professor who has spent over a decade traveling to Hungary and saw the rise of Orban, and the whole concept of that conservatives' entire worldview is owning the libs on some level. There's no, when a guy's fantastic simply because he can go on to 60 Minutes and be belligerent, it's a tough way to choose your politicians. But here is also something
Peter Thiel chose it for him, so that's
yes,
really,
that's a good point. This is all Joe Rogan is nothing if he's not a tech bro bootlicker. But here is number 13. where he also reveals there's a class war going on. He just doesn't want you to know it.
Problem with that narrative that the rich people aren't paying enough, and this is one of the things that I've seen progressive podcasters talk about the wealth tax, and they were talking about imposing a wealth tax on billionaires, and they're like, stop being greedy, pay your fair share. Like, what is your fair share and where is it going? Like, if you could show me that an increase in taxes would fix all the problems, I said this when I lived there, I wouldn't mind paying more taxes if they fixed everything, but it doesn't seem like it fixes anything. Not one thing gets fixed, and they keep asking for more money, which is crazy. The solution is cut it all off. One of the things that Texas had a problem with that narrative.
Wait a second. Okay. So, and I think he's talking about California's wealth tax. So on a California level, I cannot tell you exactly where that money could go. And in general level, why I think we should have a wealth tax. The idea that a wealth tax goes to pay for something is almost secondary. The one thing that a wealth tax will definitively help and do is to begin to narrow the wealth inequality that we have has gone rampant in the past 45 years. A wealth tax could help us close that wealth inequality gap, which is so detrimental to society, both in terms of like who gets to run our politics, and also in terms of inflation, and also in terms of political power being distributed. A wealth tax is valuable in and of itself because it takes money from the ultra wealthy.
Right. It diminishes their power. I mean, honestly, if Rogan were to actually be not so much of a coward and have somebody on his program that would challenge him from the left, which he hasn't done really in many years at this point, or a few years, that's what they should say to him. It doesn't matter where it goes to. We want to diminish your power because wealthy people have way too much control, power over our society, and it's affecting. It's destroyed our democracy.
I mean, you could pay for millions of people to get back on health insurance, Medicaid, for years and years and years to come by just 2 or 3 different people in the country could literally pay for that. But if it took their money in a wealth tax and still have billions left. Elon Musk, we could take $200 billion from Elon Musk. We could fund all that Medicaid cuts so that low-income people have access to health care. And he would still have $600 billion left. He'd still be able to go to the moon. It's absurd. And when he talks about fairness, what he's concerned is it's unfair. Why do we get to take that money from them? Because we can make a rule that says we don't want people walking around who are kings. Mm-hmm. And that's what a king was, right? A king was the person who had the vast, overwhelming concentration of wealth. And with that, they had political power. And so we don't have a monopoly of that political power and wealth that you might have had during kings. We do have an oligarchy instead of a monarchy. And that is that we have just a sort of like cohort of people who have that type of wealth and power. So you don't even need to say, I would justify a wealth tax by how the government spends it. A wealth tax should be confiscatory, period. If it achieves inhibiting the amount of money that can be accrued, and wealth tax in and of itself is not enough. We need to have things like antitrust, and we need to have other constraints that do not allow people to amass so much money that they are literally living on another planet. that their existence is completely untethered from the rest of humanity because they end up having outsized political power and, I don't know, elect a president, as in Donald Trump, destroy agencies that ultimately kill millions of people, are probably going to die because of USAID. God knows what the implications of all the other stuff is. Change our policy on whether Israel can annex the West Bank, on and on and on. This is all a function of allowing small amount of individuals to amass huge, huge fortunes.
In addition to the huge contract he got from Spotify, which is hollowing out the music industry right before our eyes, Joe Rogan sold his Onnit, a company he founded that had the Alpha Brain supplement as a part of it, to Unilever, one of the world's largest corporations that owns, like, I mean, look at what Unilever owns, like Dove soap, things like that, for potentially hundreds of $millions. And all these guys who have hundreds of millions of dollars, this whole Zoran tax thing, they said, well, if you can explain to me, no, we vote and you're going to be outvoted and you just have to take it. And that's the new future. That's the only way the future becomes a brighter place, when people like this start getting dictated to by the people who outnumber them.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately that's what's going to have to happen. But there is no, the framing of you can tax us if you can justify how we're going to spend it. No, that's not necessary for taxation.
You're an idiot. Like, why do I care about what Joe Rogan thinks about how we tax him?
Yeah, and what does he think the problems are? Like, what problems does he want fixed?
He also
white genocide in South Africa.
Right.
He also, I will remind you, when I went on to PBD and said we should return to where we were in terms of taxation in this country during the greatest economic growth we had, and also, mind you, probably the greatest period of personal emancipation, social emancipation that existed from the end of World War II into the early 70s, really ultimately until Reagan, but mostly during the 50s and 60s, every dollar over what would amount to about $3 million today would be taxed at a 90% rate. So your first $3 million, you'd pay 27% tax rate. Every dollar after $3 million, you pay a 90% tax rate. We wouldn't need a wealth tax at that point if we could tax in that way again. And he resented that idea. Because he resented that I said that because I don't make $3 million a year.
But where would the incentive be?
I don't get to opine on
Vegas loop.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. I mean, you could just see it in the context of our small K shaped economy. The economy also is increasingly just a function of a smaller and smaller group of wealthier and wealthier people. It's not sustainable. That in and of itself is enough, in my estimation. What should we play here?
We could do also, I mean, what's fun is 14 and 15.
While we're here? Yes. Okay. Oh, this is Trump was in Vegas yesterday.
Yeah.
I did not see him.
Misconnection.
No invite for Seder.
Did you see that he was running late for like an hour or so? So everybody who was attending it just started singing gospel songs, and it was very disturbing.
That is not what
The amount of religiosity, you can see the intense desperation on behalf of the Republican Party. I mean, look, 87% or something like that of evangelicals, self-identified evangelicals in this country voted for Donald Trump. they are trying to, in some way, generate Republican enthusiasm by stirring up religious fervor with these people. And I just don't think it's working.
Probably shouldn't attack the Pope when you're doing that too, but you know.
Well, no, the evangelicals like that. Evangelicals like
come
that.
on.
I mean,
Yeah, but you
Marjorie
gotta
Taylor Greene's all across. Like she's anti-Catholic a little bit herself,
Oh,
right?
Definitely.
Georgia. When I moved to Georgia from Maine, and people asked me about religion, I said I was Catholic. They're like, "So you're not Christian?"
How about
Yeah,
those
of
Latinos
course.
he won in Texas?
Well, that's true. That's true. And there's a really interesting poll in the Texas primary that just came out showing Paxton ahead of Cornyn. But Jennifer Welch has said this before. I mean, Trump is just like a televangelist, or he's just like an evangelical preacher where he's put in a position of authority. He scams the parishioners like a televangelist or a big megachurch preacher would, and they follow him because he's wealthy and preaches essentially prosperity gospel. So like, just like the Republicans before him, Trump's core constituency is evangelicals.
This is an interesting admission by Trump. And I think on some level it explains like why he's able to connect with people, because 2 days ago, was it 2 days ago? It was Friday. I can't remember when. Emma did an extended version of the DoorDash grandma who came to DC and came to the White House. She had no taxes on her $11,000 tips that she
Although
got.
in a Fox News interview, she said it was a different figure. The 11,000 is quite dubious.
Oh yeah, but I think it was no taxes on the 11,000. So she didn't actually save 11,000.
Gotcha.
But nevertheless, Trump was taking credit for saving her husband's life from cancer. And but here he is where he sort of admits like it was schlocky.
Earlier this week at the White House, I met a wonderful woman named Sharon Simmons, a grandmother driving DoorDash to help support her husband's cancer treatment. She's got serious cancer. She's going to be okay, I think. Sharon delivered McDonald's to the Oval Office. It was a little bit of a, to be honest, it was a little tacky. They come up with these crazy ideas like McDonald's, although that was the biggest ever on Google. They say #1 ever. And the garbage truck. I mean, we do these things in politics. They're a little embarrassing. They're a little tiny embarrassing, but we do them, and you win by landslides. It's one of the. So we got to keep doing them. No, we got to knock on the Oval Office door. This did not happen. That's the first maybe in the history of the Oval Office. And it was a very beautiful woman standing there with 2 big bags of McDonald's hamburgers. And I say, is this really believable? I said, but the point of it was she made earlier this.
I mean, you got to give credit where credit's due. He is tearing down the fourth wall, and he lets the people he's sitting there with in on the joke. It's all ruse. It was all just a publicity stunt. Of course, it was tacky. She's not really delivering McDonald's, but it works, and that is effective. What Trump is doing there, he gets to have his cake and eat it too.
Yeah, I don't know if the DoorDash guy who was going to bat for it being genuine a few days ago is too happy to hear him do that, but
yeah, well, Trump doesn't mind throwing that guy under the bus. He
It's
doesn't
indicative
care.
of, or his entire staff of like public relations and communications people that put this together for him. But that's where he is a savant on like media exposure, knowing how to play the media, and knowing how to market himself. And he just didn't like how that looked because it looked insane.
Yes.
And when we did this deep dive into it, it's a really, really sad story. She had to run through her life savings and work as a gig worker because her husband had cancer. And it's
Uniquely
like, this is
American.
amazing. Yeah, this is why America is falling apart.
disgustingly shabby. She should be taking care of her husband.
Yeah. But I'm there to do that when I gave you no taxes on tips.
I know. Pay somebody to do it with the money you make slinging burgers around. Also, never mention any of the people that work at the McDonald's making the food, but
Yeah.
Don't worry, Dr. Christ is here.
Exactly. Meanwhile, I don't know how to explain this one. He's just so out of touch. This is number 14.
He also seems very jacked up. If it's true that he was late, he's very sweaty.
He had a little bit of a stir.
Probably about $4,000 or $5,000, and they wanted to raise your taxes. The great big beautiful bill also slashed taxes on millions of American small businesses, including restaurants, dry cleaners, corner stores. What is a corner store? I've never heard that term. I know what a corner store is, but I've never heard it described. A corner store. Who the hell wrote that, please? And more.
He's so mad at his staff.
Imagine getting fired for using the right term.
He's heard of corner store, but he's never heard it used before.
Because he can't admit he doesn't know something.
Right, but you're from New York. Corner store is something you should definitely know.
Corner store seems to me to be like Main Street. Like, there's corner stores everywhere.
I guess. I mean, maybe in New York you'd say bodega or something, but like.
But if you get chauffeured everywhere your entire life, corner store is less.
What
of
are
a thing you
corners?
notice. Yeah, exactly.
What are corners? I just get in the car. I don't pay attention to.
Isn't he a builder?
Does it turn? Does it? It's just get me there faster. That's all I care about.
You know what I thought of when he just kept railing about the corner store inclusion and the shabbiness of the PR stunt with the DoorDash lady was Cory Booker on Pod Save America throwing his comms team under the bus in real time.
I don't know who Sam Piker is.
Right. Like, God, just be... Maybe if you have authentic beliefs, and I don't know how this turned into a Cory Booker thing, but you don't have to like constantly outsource blame about things falling apart to your comms team.
Let's do a couple IMs, and then should we take some phone calls?
Sure.
Are the phones plugged in?
Yes.
All right,
Would you like me to handle that?
No, I got it. Number is 646-257-3920. 646-257-3920 is the phone number if you want to be part of the program. California Resistance says, Sam, here in Palm Springs, Coachella Valley area, there have been numerous road, bridge, and local projects ongoing for years. Also in LA, trans expanded, etc. It's small-minded BS to say nothing has changed here in California. It makes zero sense. Well, but how does that interest? Public transportation is not going to interest Joe Rogan.
He just doesn't want to see homeless people when he drives from his mansion to the Comedy Store. That's about it.
Call him from a 484 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from? 484.
Is this me?
Yeah, it's you.
Holy crap. All right. Yeah, my name's Adam. I'm from Kansas City.
Hi, Adam. Welcome to the program. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about fascism in Missouri today. We've been dealing with quite a bit out here. What was that?
Fantastic. That sounds like fun.
Oh yeah, it's freaking wonderful, man. Yeah, so I guess I'll start with we have a guy out here. He's the Missouri Speaker of the House. His name is John Patterson. He is trying to recreate the Sam Brownback tax cuts from Kansas.
Oh my God. Those were the most those are the most the Sam Brownback from Texas taxes from the mid-teens, I guess it was, early teens. He brought in Laffer of the Laffer curve, whose argument is if we cut taxes, particularly corporate taxes, for S corps, but also we cut income taxes for wealthy people, we will actually generate more money because people will be more inspired to work because they're keeping more of their money. And it was such a disaster that the Republican-controlled Kansas legislature had to come back in and because it really destroyed the Kansas higher education and school, which were actually really like sort of jewels of Kansas. They had to come back in,
Yep.
raise the taxes, and it was such an embarrassment that Sam Brownback was appointed, ready for this, ambassador to faith in the first Trump administration. They literally like ejected him in a rocket and sent him up into space to make sure that he was not around to remind everybody what an abject failure those taxes were.
Yeah, it's pretty just devoid of any logic whatsoever. It's so divorced from reality. But they are ramming this through pretty hard. It's in our Senate right now. They actually had some like late night stuff last night or the night before to try and get it through. It was close to midnight. And of course, the Democrats out here didn't bother to filibuster it or anything like that. So that's, it's just so stupid. But that's like one of like his three things that he's done. He got rid of paid sick leave last year that we voted for on the 24 cycle.
I mean, like, how do people, how do your fellow Missourians, you vote for paid sick leave, they get rid of it. Like, how do people react to that?
I mean, like anyone on the left is pretty PO'd about it. I think people on the right just are so oblivious. They don't care for the most part. There's some that care, but I mean, it's insane. I mean, he did that, and like we're trying to fight that and get that back. But he's also the guy who put the gerrymandering on the map, and all of our courts have ruled pretty much against the people. We gathered like 305,000 signatures of like 106,000 that were required to overturn it. So hopefully that will be on the ballot in November. So that guy is really political enemy number one in Missouri. We call him Tax Con John out here.
What do you call him?
But Tax Con John.
Tax Con John. Okay.
Yeah, you got to brand it right,
Yeah. Well,
but yeah,
good luck.
aside from well, there's more if you want to hear about it.
Just a little bit more.
Yeah, we had the Hunt family fleece $3.5 billion out of Kansas to build new stadiums and facilities for the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah. That happened in like December. Everyone is mad about it. No one's happy. Not like no one on any side of the aisle. But aside from that, I mean, I'm not sure how to fight that at all. But aside from that, I wanted to give a little shout out to Matt. Thank you so much for having Hartzell Gray on Left Reckoning a few months back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I followed the Kansas City DSA for a couple of months after that and ended up joining. And it's been one of the better decisions I've made in my life. So I wanted to really thank you for that.
Oh, that's
That's awesome.
That's great.
Yeah, Hartzell was on that stream you did a couple weekends ago, I think, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good candidate.
All right.
Yeah, he's
Appreciate the
awesome.
phone call.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. All right, let's go here. Grab another phone. Calling from a 415 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Is this me?
It is you. Yes. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, my name is Zach. I live in San Diego.
Zach in San Diego. What's on your mind?
So I thought I've been trying to call in for a few weeks, and I'm not really sure the right way to word my concern/question. And there's a lot of other stuff going on in the country and around the world, but this one thing just really irks me, and I just wanted some.
All right. Well, we'll get right to it.
From the show on it. It's so.
That's what we're here.
Sorry. I just don't really understand why so many on the left, like leftists, are anti-Taiwan. And I just wanted your guys' kind of insight on that.
Are
I think it's not
anti-Taiwan?
anti-Taiwan and more of a recognition of Western interests in keeping Taiwan under our umbrella.
I get that like criticism, but I've seen leftist communities go as far as like being straight up like not necessarily just pro-China, but like anti-Taiwan, like saying like
How?
I don't know,
How so?
like basically saying it's already not a country, even though it has its own government, democratic system, its own branches, everything.
Well, I think the idea is that you can find a lot of different perspectives about everything. So, I mean, I can't speak for whatever you've seen where somebody said that. But did you ask them?
I mean, I was mostly replied to with trolling, like being called a Republican just for being pro-Taiwan, or
How do you define being pro-Taiwan? And what do you see that as distinct? How do you see that as distinct from what the left is saying? Because I believe in people's right to self-determination. It's also very true that the United States is heavily invested in trying to keep Taiwan under our umbrella, and that's just a factual recounting of the dynamics of international politics.
I guess my idea of being pro-Taiwan isn't from the U.S. umbrella standpoint. It's more of it should remain an independent entity from the CCP. Like
I think the real question is how far are you willing to go to back that up?
Yes.
I mean, I know this isn't a popular opinion, but if I was like in Taiwan, I would want all the help that was being offered to me.
I understand, but you're not in Taiwan. As an American, what do you think that America should do?
I mean, I
mean, isn't that? I mean, come on. Okay, isn't that the ultimate question, right? Like, I think people want self-determination. If Taiwan wants to maintain itself as its own country, then I think obviously people are supportive of that. But the question is like, how far are you willing to go? What does it mean to be supportive? We can sit here on the show and say, oh, supportive of it. But does that mean that I'm willing to have my son or daughter go to war over it?
Yeah. I mean,
I'll just say that's the old question. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like when you're talking about questions like this, that's really ultimately what it's going to boil down to. Where are you going to draw the line? And, the ambiguity, the strategic ambiguity is supposed to sort of like make it easier to sort of project that maybe we would do this for us, maybe we wouldn't. And in lieu of actually having to specifically articulate that. So I think probably my guess is that those people are, immediately take it to the conclusion that supporting Taiwan ultimately leads you to having to engage in a war. And it's very difficult, I think, from a position of any leadership to say like explicitly, like, I support it only this far because, there's a competitive aspect to this between two different superpowers, more or less. And
I would recommend a book, Fitful Embrace, Taiwan and China, edited by a guy named Lowell Dittmer in 2017, has a bunch of different essays in it. My position as a socialist internationalist is I would encourage it not to go down one of the nationalistic paths where the situation with Taiwan and China is that historically both of them consider themselves to be the real China, and then they decided, well, we'll just kind of agree to disagree on that and continue cross-strait relations. I think they should continue to have cross-strait relations, and these borders shouldn't be hardened into something where it precludes that and forces militarization. I think that's the smartest way to go about it, rather than insisting on a certain types of nationalism. And I mean, there already is a lot of like cross-strait relations. People might be surprised to hear that these countries, despite being pretty hostile to each other, there's a lot of people crossing the channel or the straits to conduct business and that sort of thing. I think that should be done. I think Taiwanese should regain a certain amount of independence, but I don't think America continuously talking about how we would help them, keep China out if it gets pushed into a military conflict is really helping matters. I think it is increasing tensions, and I think it's also an idle threat, because America couldn't even take Carg Island. It couldn't reopen the Strait of Hormuz. It couldn't even stop the Houthis.
Oh, we could have. We
There's
just decided not to.
If China wants to go, what we should be doing in this entire world, frankly, is we should be insisting that you can't take territory through conquest. But unfortunately, one of our major allies in the Middle East likes to do that, and also that helped Russia do the exact same thing. So I think we should be trying to pull back from this nationalism that is
100%.
rampaging around the world. And so I think that would be my suggestion, rather than insisting on nationalistic self-determination. I think we need to get away from this nationalism.
Appreciate the call.
Are you talking about Taiwanese nationalism or U.S. nationalism?
I'm talking about both.
Appreciate the call.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Let's see here. Calling from a 305 area code. Who's calling? Where are you from?
Hello, is this me?
Yes, this is you.
Oh, wow, awesome. Nice to talk to you guys. This is Ryan from Brooklyn.
Ryan from Brooklyn, what's on your mind?
From the 305 number, you probably tell, I grew up in Miami, and then I moved to Brooklyn. And in moving here, I've come in contact with a lot more. I'm Jewish for context. I'm what I call flexodox, like a modern Orthodox kind of vibe, I guess you could say. But I've come in contact with a lot more Hasidic people since I moved here, and become kind of close with a few of them, and some people who are ex-Hasidic as well. And I have a very strong urge to try to, I don't know how to put this, maybe like instigate some kind of interest in secular education in that community, or even, maybe try and push back on some of the things that I view as not only harmful in a general sense, but like specifically as a Jewish person, I don't on a theological level certain things, but like I'm just curious like how, because I feel like there's a lot of conversation in Jewish communities about organizing in synagogues and stuff like that to push back against Zionism and other things we disagree with, but I feel like a lot of that gets centered on reform or conservative and stuff, and a lot of more Orthodox communities get left out of that conversation. So I'd be interested to hear what you have to say about that, if anything.
I can tell you exactly how you do it. Set up a couple of Wi-Fi hotspots around the neighborhood.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I
mean,
thought of that.
to the extent that I know any Hasidic who have, whether it was left the community or were ended up excommunicated because they realized, like, oh my God, there's something called trans or being gay, or there's a world where people live where they learn things about, this isn't true of all Hasidic communities, but there are some communities where many of the members of the community don't learn anything secular, like math or because they're I think the most effective thing is getting them. All the stories I've heard about people who have left those communities or broadened their horizons has been a function of they went somewhere and there was public Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And
that is what I've seen as well.
Because they just have access to, like, to the extent they have an internet at home, which is not always the case, it is so restricted that, honestly, like, a bunch of MiFis secretly hidden around the community would probably be would do it.
Yeah, because there's this subreddit that's pretty active that has people who are like either ex-community members or some people who are in the community and actively questioning it. And I feel like that could be a good way to try and like release the password, in some fashion to like community members.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
I also just on us like kind of in a related point, I'm a contributor to a magazine that is like a Bundes magazine that has a 2-year anniversary edition coming out. If I could shout that out,
Oh,
that would
yeah.
be pretty
Please,
cool.
what is the name of it?
Awesome.
It's called Der Specter. It's DERSPEKTER. And it's a free newsletter, but there is the 2-year anniversary edition is available for pre-order right now. And it's like 45 pages with translations, modern essays, art, all sorts of really good stuff. Some of my work is in there as well. And we're just, raising money to be able to put out more work in the future.
Fantastic. What's your name again?
Ryan.
Ryan. Okay. Thanks, Ryan. We'll check it out. It's derspecter.org.
Yep, .org, yeah.
Pretty cool. Thanks for the call.
Awesome. Yeah, it was great talking to you guys. Left is best.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Flexidox is an interesting new coinage. Reminds me
Yes,
of when we talked
I
about
had
Chris
not
Long.
heard that. Schumer for president 2028. I'm so happy Matt's having success with his other shows. It means he's on this one less. Win-win.
I welcome your hatred.
Schumer for president. Marxist homes. It wasn't just higher education that Brownback ruined. It was the mental health services as well. Sawatomi State Mental Hospital had the state-of-the-art service to help people dealing with mental illness and reintegrating them back into society. After Brownback's tax cuts, the hospital lost $20 million and it had to make cuts to services and staff. Everything went south from there. Rather than keeping patients to get better, they try to get people in and out as quickly as possible to keep up with the upkeep and lack of staff. Also, F the Hunt family. Commie Republican hellhole. I grew up in Central California and live in Washington State now, and we say corner store every day. Matty Moron. The U.S. has been such a great steward of international peace and national self-determination. Can't see any reason why it won't continue that hot streak when it comes to Taiwan. Protector of frogs. As China-Taiwan relations grow and China liberalization continues, the two may come together again or to come to some firm agreement. The bestest leftist. When you're self-employed and a stoner, every day you remember and plan for 420, but always forget that tax day is 415. Let's take another phone call. Call from a 780. 780. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Sorry, I was switching to phone. This is Al from Alberta.
Al from Alberta.
Yeah. So this is something you guys have kind of touched on a little bit here and there, but I grew up in a kind of a center-right household, and there's this narrative that I think is really pervasive with at least a lot of my family, and it's just the idea that and the issue I have here is that this is something else that I think Democrats have really ceded to the right over the years. And it's just the idea that we need someone with we need a strong leader at the top to make the hard decisions. And I don't really hear a lot of leftist or even Democrat politicians, I don't know, pushing back on that concept at all. Because I think history has really shown over time that when we have those really strong leaders at the top making those hard decisions, shit gets worse for everybody all over the place. And yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a major point here. It's just something I've been tossing around in my head quite a bit. And I think the left and Democratic politicians in general would really benefit from really touting that leftist positions have been proven over time to be smarter and more effective policies. And the right, frankly, just offers bad, stupid policies that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I that's why I'm insistent on like certain things about like how we should frame taxing the rich and not shy away from the deficit and stuff like that, because I think if you can make the case that taxing the wealthy is also a responsible budget, like the Republicans for so many years have tried to make you view the government in the way that you would view your budget for your small business or for your home, for your household. So why don't we just reclaim that framing? How can we reduce the deficit and the debt? We take billionaires' money and we put it into the government. And
this experiment with the lifestyles of the rich and the famous has failed, and we need to be fiscally responsible about
exactly. It's reclaiming fiscal responsibility. It doesn't need to. I mean, we know that there are differences. Of course, we know that the government can print money, but that didn't stop the Republicans from making that argument so effectively, and it's allowed for this reflexive view that conservatives in the Republican Party are more beneficial to the economy. The recessions that we've all lived through have started under Republicans and have been fixed by Democrats. And it's an issue that isn't better, more adequately communicated, I think in part because they're leaving the juiciest pieces on the table here that I'm talking about.
I think specifically about the strong leader thing. I mean, I think there's a certain inevitability that folks want the president to be strong and competent, but I do think that we're going to see in the wake of Trump, hopefully, a reassertion of Congress and its role in everything, frankly. You know,
I hope so. I mean, are you seeing more politicians aside from like, I don't know, Plattner and Al-Said, and there's a few coming up, but I feel like we need something more.
Well, I think there's also some who are sort of like who have been convinced by Trump. I mean, we're going through a whatever you want to call it, competitive authoritarianism, soft authoritarian era of our politics, and one would hope that the backlash to this is we need to disperse power more. We need to, amongst the other branches of government, and really it's Congress in many respects that is not taking lead. This is why I hope, let's put it this way. You get rid of the filibuster, which I think is increasingly a possibility, or at the very least, some type of reform. And you're going to see a lot more assertion by the legislature, because, the Senate has always traditionally been the place where good ideas go to die. And if it's a 50-50, up or down vote on everything, people are going to be a lot more sensitive to what the power the legislature has, and people are going to demand they use it. So we'll see. But appreciate.
But if they're just using what Emma calls the rotating villain strategy, I feel like they'll just start to fall back on that more. Maybe I'm just being overly pessimistic here. But.
No, I mean they might. I mean, it's all it's very possible.
But you can't. You got to try something.
I did not coin that, by the way. I've stolen that from others. But yes.
Well,
she coined the
hump day, and they're all in the thing. So.
Appreciate the call.
Awesome, thanks. Bye.
Emma also coined trickle-down economics.
Calling from a 503 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
This is Chicken Daiquiri calling from Williamsburg, Momdonistan.
Chicken Daiquiri from Williamsburg, Momdonistan. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. First I just got to say, it was happy to hear Matt Taibbi back on the Majority Report, but a little disappointed I didn't get that iconic Emma Vigeland impression, gotta say.
Taibbi?
Oh, yeah.
It's
10 out of
iconic?
10.
I don't know about that, but yeah, just go. I
It's
go deep into
iconic.
the vocal fry. Yes.
Well, the Knicks, they're playing tomorrow. Have we seen the Wired article about the disturbing deep surveillance from Madison Square Garden?
I did see that. That is not new. It's also been used by Dolan at Radio City Music Hall.
Absolutely. And so I kind of bring that up because I want to talk a little bit more. And, Taylor Lorenz has kind of been following this a little bit, but in the wake of Congress being called last night, and just generally, I want to get your all's take on how surveillance is really not just in the public sphere, but how it's really being used with AI, ICE, and then now we see it more prevalent in the private sectors.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in many respects, the private sector stuff is more problematic because all of the worst impulses of government agencies, I'm talking all the acronyms in terms of like police agencies, they can get around restrictions on our privacy that's imposed on government agencies by just simply like outsourcing it to private entities. And that's what's been really going on. They're just going out and buying it from other people who've collected it. And it's a problem. I mean, it's a real problem. We need this is like an ongoing thing, is that just because there's a market for something, we have to get out of this mindset that just because there's a market for something, therefore we should allow it to exist. Right? I mean,
there's a market for narcotics, and that's illegal. Not that, but it's a question of choices.
Yes. I mean, for a long time, gambling was not legal in this country, certainly not in the way that it is now. You just didn't have access to it. It was very limited. And I'm not saying that gambling should not exist, but I do think that we need to, for the sake of our society, we need to take things that are a threat to the stability of our society and, broadly speaking, make them illegal or less accessible or more restricted. I just don't think that there is a value to a poly market or a Kalshi or DraftKings or whatever. I just don't think we should make it that accessible. I think it's problematic. I think it's gonna essentially take out generations of people. You look at like the enormous credit card debt that 18 to 25-year-olds have that can be directly tied to these gambling sites. I just don't think it's healthy. And if we ever justified at any point outlawing narcotics, like you say, Emma, or if we justify like, why don't we let 7-year-olds drink alcohol? Why don't we let them come into bars? I mean, if we have ever impose restrictions on things because to protect members of society, it seems to me that we should be able to do that with other things. Just because there's a market for it does not mean that it should exist, or at least be allowed to sort of like exist in our society untethered. I just, what's the point then? And then, obviously we're going to have an argument because there's a lot of people who like that I disagree with what other people's ideas for this. We got to have an argument about it, and hopefully we win it. Appreciate the call.
Yeah, thank you so much. Left is best.
Appreciate it. I mean, like all the the name escapes me now, but the the coordinated ring cameras around the country that are used as a surveillance network. Cops tie into this. Cops end up buying all sorts of data on us that they couldn't collect themselves, but are able to purchased from just a private entity. I mean, we have the ability to restrict these things. We just.
Yeah. I mean, the problem is the political economy. They're so full of investor money, and those investors want returns, and they're not going to be able to get them through consumer products, so they're going to become government contractors. And look at what we can do with our AI now. Throw in all of your surveillance information, and we can have AI go through it, so we don't have to staff people doing it. That's where they're... And also, we'll support wars, too, because we need that money for our tech companies now.
Yep. All right. Final call of the day. And for the week, from a 508 area code, Central Massachusetts. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Mike from Grafton.
From Grafton. Love it.
Oh, yeah. Too much New Jersey talk earlier today. I got to center things out. Perfect way to end the week here.
Fair enough.
Appreciate it.
North Dakota Grafton?
No,
Oh,
Massachusetts.
Damn it. Okay, whatever.
Shame. Sorry, Matt. It's actually
So
really
is that
funny
a
timing for
148?
caller before. Oh, what's that?
You Route 148?
140.
140, sorry.
Near 140 and Route 30.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
You're a little
about.
rusty. That's all right.
Near Charlton?
No, near the Shrewsbury border.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Grew up in Shrewsbury, so.
Yeah, I remember Lake Quinsigamon quite a bit.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, taking the boat on the lake, and my parents got a boat,
Dude, did you ever go to Spags?
Not much to it. Spags? How old do you think I am? My dad's been to Spags.
All right, well, I went.
That hasn't been around in my life.
Never mind. All right, what's your point?
Sorry about that. All right. All right, two things. The first thing is actually funny timing. The person before, brought up that Wired article. And I was actually going to call in and see if you guys have thought about trying to get Pablo Torre on the program. He actually, in his podcast today, had the writer of that Wired article on. So he's just done a lot of good stuff with
We should.
going and talk about. Sorry, what?
We should.
We should.
Hello?
Have him on.
We should have.
Oh.
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah, like a lot of great stuff with that. I don't know if you saw the episode about the Memphis Grizzlies owner who was like selling some drone technology to Russia, going past sanctions, stuff like that.
It's great that these type of people own
person
on our
on.
sports team. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I know. It's the best people in the world, obviously. They love sports, apparently.
Yeah, they're not running all these players' bodies into the ground, keeping the season too long, so they can then later sell the team in just 3 years for a huge payout. Yeah, that's not what's going on.
And then also uproot the stadium and move it to like some other city because they get a better tax break or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate the call.
It's so fun.
All right.
Got one last quick question.
Go ahead.
What's the best town in Central Mass? Worcester doesn't count.
Why doesn't Worcester count?
Because it's a city. So what's the best town?
Okay,
What's the best suburb of Worcester,
I don't really go out there much. There's a lot offered in Paxton. You know what I mean?
Paxton, okay.
How about Sturbridge, reminding you of the way things used to be?
Well, Sturbridge is
I like
out
some
there,
old
dude.
Sturbridge Village. I got a friend that lives over there, yeah.
Sturbridge is way
He's over
out
there.
there. I mean, you got to get through Sterling and
Paxton's way out
Charlton
there,
for
no?
that.
Or actually, I just don't go really to west of Worcester much,
Yeah,
more
Paxton's full west side. There was a good ice cream place
Yeah.
out there. So, and a hot dog place at the time. I can't remember now.
Yeah.
That's too long ago.
Did it exist when like Spags did?
Yeah. Spags was great. Say hi to your dad for me.
All right. Will do. All right, thanks, guys.
Appreciate the call.
Is that the slogan of Worcester?
What's that? Spags.
Say
is
hi
great.
to
Say
your father for me.
Say hi to your father. Yeah. Tell your father he should get off his ass. That signifies the end of our call-in portion. Couple of more IMs. Sam, do make sure to tell all the lawyers at the Torts Conference that you're also kind of a lawyer from Chef Solo. No, I don't. Some. JR in Philly regarding Pablo Torre, the caller couldn't understand Emma's thick accent.
Right. I wasn't speaking in the Massachusetts accent. Couldn't figure it out.
Al Conniption says, all of you should be Pablo Torre guests. Just saying. Actually, I met Pablo a while back. We had a talk, and he is, I think he's going to have me on with the head writer of I'm with Busey, a guy who's now a sports guy in Pittsburgh named Dave Damashek that apparently Pablo knows. And he asked if I would come on to talk I'm with Busey with Dave. And the amazing thing about that for me would be Dave and I were sort of like in different camps. You know, we were brought in by different sort of like forces on the show. And so we never really had a conversation about like how effed up everything was because we worked for different people.
Would they be able to show clips?
I mean, I don't know. The real question is, would you be able to play audio recordings that were surreptitiously?
Yes.
Yeah, I think the answer is not without getting sued.
Oh,
But,
wait, California? Yeah, that's two-party state.
Well, it's unclear.
Yeah.
Oh, it is a two-party state. Shoot, right. Yeah, that's too bad. That's really too bad. I mean, I'm not saying any of that took place. I'm saying that like we would obviously mock it up.
Yeah, of course.
Wouldn't, because as far as I know, none of that exists.
Never.
Seder 2028. Sam, how did you grow up in Mass and not learn to sail? Dude, what are you talking about?
What?
First of all, I come from the second largest city in the country, not on a navigable waterway. So I'm not gonna. It's almost like
what's first?
I don't know.
Atlanta?
I don't know. And Worcester could have had a navigable waterway, but we paved over the Blackstone Canal. So
Johannesburg, South Africa is globally the largest. Indianapolis is the largest in the U.S.
F that. Al Crankin, I never want to see Sam privately obtained foot photos leaked by James Dolan. All right, two more. Slut for Justice, participating budgeting is not a new idea. The idea that the state's budget should reflect the values and priorities of the people. I wish more Democratic leaders would promote and practice this. And the final IM of the week, left is big pharma plug. RFK Jr. got caught on a podcast saying he wanted to round up black kids that were on ADHD, anti-bipolar depressants, and put them on farms to be away from the drugs and technology. He's a bigoted clown. He got called out by Representative Sewell.
He's also, he like engages in race science. People forget that clip of him saying that COVID was bioengineered not to impact Ashkenazi Jews and black people.
Right.
Chinese people, I believe it was.
Oh, sorry, Chinese people.
The way he
Ashkenazi and Chinese.
The way he talks
Get his
about
racism right.
Sorry.
The way he talks about chronic diseases strikes me as eugenic too. Like he's like the reason he hasn't come out for Medicare for all is because rich people like himself would have to pay too much because of how unhealthy all of our lifestyles are.
Well, think of all of the anti-vax and the pandemic and all of that of that movement. Their go-to talking point was like, it's only killing people with comorbidities. Like if you are not a fully healthy human being, your right to life is less than someone who doesn't have any disabilities, doesn't have any immunity deficiencies, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, that's what's going on there. They were basically
poverty
saying
a comorbidity in his eye.
Apparently not.
Well, maybe you shouldn't have done that. Should have worked harder. Yeah. Matt, Ryan, Emma, great job this week. Folks, we'll see you on Monday.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the lie bar. But finding out won't make me feel any better. Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my pilot light's shining bright. I guess somewhere the choice was made for the option where you don't get paid, for the road that bends before it finally breaks you. I guess somehow I lost my drive between the 101